I reread that entire section where they got up to in the movies. There are more minutes in the movie than there are pages in the book for the first... How do you do that? How is that physically possible?
They take their time and have the characters be likable. And they add stuff that's probably not necessary, but it's nice to see.
They add a ton of things from the appendices that had nothing to do with the story that Tolkien admitted was not necessary to the story. Okay, let me tell you this. Tolkien in 1960 decided to rewrite The Hobbit. He's like, he looked at Lord of the Rings, he looked at The Hobbit, he's like, you know what, I wrote this as a story for my child. By the way, what is a children's story? What is a bedtime story? What's it supposed to be? To put your kids to sleep.
Well, then this film does great, according to you, doesn't it?
Well, it does great if that's what you want, but I don't want that from my movie. So, and he decided, he's like, you know what, they don't sync up. He's like, this is not working. I will rewrite The Hobbit so it matches Lord of the Rings. He got like a quarter of the way through it, and he's like, I can't do this. He's like, people are complaining, and rightfully so, this isn't The Hobbit. What was this cute little kid story now just is something else entirely. So that's my problem. You either have to go all out and say, I am doing a kid's film like the original story, or I am doing this like Lord of the Rings. As it stands, it's too messy and too much humor aimed at kids, and I'm sorry, it is way worse than Lord of the Rings was. Lord of the Rings had dumb moments, dumb moments. I don't remember trolls snorting all over hobbits, and like this just got really lowbrow, and the kids loved it. Then for entire 20-minute stretches, you want to know what happened while I was in the cinema? I had kids talking and kicking the back of my seat. You want to know why? Because they don't give a crap who Thorin's father is. That's why. And they don't give a crap about Saruman talking to Gandalf about, oh no, the dwarves should go on this quest, and oh, the necromancers are in, and how do we know this is the Morgul Blade?
But all the films have had a mix. I mean, this is sort of the upside downside of what Peter Jackson has to do. Is it has to appeal to so many people. It has to appeal to the fans of Lord of the Rings. It has to appeal to adults. It has to appeal to children. It has to get that teenage demographic. It has to get people like action. It has to get people into fantasy. And I thought for the most part, the Lord of the Rings, I think, is a cluttered mess, but I like it, and I think it works out okay. He
balanced it so much better in Lord of the Rings.
I thought this was so much nicer.
But all of the changes, and I know, I get it, I've sat there on message boards when people are just like, the elves weren't at Helm's Deep, and that was in Arwen, I was Glorfindel. I don't care. You have to write a narrative that goes from one point to another, and if you have moments from the book that are just like, this is just unfilmable, or this does not serve the main plot, you reconstruct it. And he reconstructed so much in Lord of the Rings that actually made the story better from a cinematic perspective. He did little of that here. Radagast is in this. He's the third wizard that was mentioned in the appendices. Gandalf mentions him once.
Weird. That was weird.
All I can tell you is from reading the books and the little entries about him, I got this image of like a hermit, a St. Francis of Assisi type who likes animals, who is a little odd, but, you know, still kind of together and still a wizard.
They make it a little too goofy.
We're not in Jar Jar Binks territory, but I swear to God, when they brought out the rabbit sled, I can tell you that even Tolkien at his most, like, juvenile moments in The Hobbit, I don't think would have been like, sled of rabbits. I don't...
What, was that in the book, then, the rabbit sled?
I do not know, because Radagast wasn't in it.
I mean, or just anything. Was it ever said they had a rabbit sled? Because I would acknowledge that was silly. That was really silly.
I don't remember that at all.
Okay, let's put it this way. For a film, I mean, I think we can both agree the first film is, first book is a children's book. And it was written for children. It's written very simply. There's a ton of stuff that does not add up. Like, how come trolls in the Lord of the Rings can't talk? You know, what the hell does a dragon want with gold and stuff? I mean, this is clearly stuff that's for a kid's book, you know. But I think we can acknowledge for a film that, you're probably right, does not need to exist, I think it's very well done. And I think it captures so much of Tolkien that those other films could not capture.
I think it would have been very well done if it were like 2 hours short. Okay, let me put it this way. If this film ended and I knew there was only one film left and we were at the halfway point in the story, I would probably be more forgiving. Jesus Christ, there are German operas that are shorter than this thing, and those things are like 4 or 5 days.
Okay, did you like when all the dwarves sang the song that's in the trailer?
I did.
Okay, what was the point? You could have cut that, wouldn't have missed a thing.
I think it added atmosphere to the scene.
Exactly. That's what the other stuff does, too. It adds atmosphere. It allows these characters to be characters that you can like and you want to watch them on their journey.
It's the same problem I had with Fantasia 2000, which is any one of those individual bits and scenes from Fantasia 2000, it's fun. Oh, whales flying. Oh, the little toy. When you add them up together, they all add up to something that's just like, this is all kind of more of the same, and you needed to cut it down and pick your best moments.
Okay, so we've rambled for a pretty long time here, just talking about what we like. No, people love to hear this stuff. I say, just last-minute thoughts, anything else you want to say about the movie, just final thoughts on the film?
This was... I'll give you 2 films. I'll say if you want to do 2 films, I get it. You want to flesh out appendices, fine. You got to do it right. This should have been 2 films at 2.5 hours each. Tops. That's tops. Probably could have done this in 2 hours each. Peter Jackson did such a great job of finding a coherent narrative where, come on, Tolkien purists, let's be honest, there was none. In Lord of the Rings, and he just can't do it here. Things that he didn't need to be there that were from the appendices are there. I get the stuff with the necromancer. I won't spoil it for you guys that haven't read the books or the appendices or whatever, but yes, there is sort of a point, but you have to find a way to do it right and mesh with the narrative, and as it stands in this film, it's a giant detour, and an hour and a half to get to chapter 2. I mean, that's all I can say for a book that is just... It's a light read. You just did not need to do this. It's like taking Mary Poppins and turning it into this, 8-hour-long epic.
It is, the Broadway version.
Well, imagine 3 Broadway version shows, then you got it. It's this should have been a fun little thing, and he does get a number of things right, and the acting is great. I'd say even better than, in some cases, than... even the other films, particularly Gandalf is a little nicer, and but yeah, it's just so long when it just didn't need to be, much like this rant. So you got bored by this rant, now you know I felt during the movie.
As you probably know, I really enjoyed it for the reasons that actually allow which he listed. I do like the length because it allowed characters to breathe. I felt like I could know these people better. It allowed performances to shine through. It allowed me to feel like I could breathe in this world. And for me, that's always what I think Tolkien is about. It is about living in these worlds. And a lot of the stuff I do agree with as well. It's not as big a film. It's not as driven by story, and there are a lot of detours. But for someone that, if you love that world and you want to be in that world, I say you'll probably like this film. I think I will be a minority of the one that likes this one the most out of the others, and I will agree, I don't know how they're going to make 2 other films out of this either. But you know what? I'll wait and see what they have in store, and hopefully it'll be good stuff. I really liked it. Would you say go see it?
If you were a fan of Lord of the Rings, I would see it once. But I mean, as somebody who's a die-hard Lord of the Rings fan, that's saying something for me. I'm like, you can see it once and probably be satisfied. And I saw it in 28 frames per second, so I have no idea. There's this great debate: is it better to see it in 48 frames per second or scrub your eyes out with steel wool? But I just saw it in the normal version, and
yeah, me too.
It looked crisp and good, but the effects, the resolution was so high, and the CGI effects in particular, I can only imagine it's going to be worse with the higher frame rate. So,
yeah, and I think you know what I think of it. You know what I enjoy, and you can probably get a grasp of if that's what you would enjoy as well. So,
and I don't disagree with him in theory. I'm just saying you got to pace your film right. You can totally let characters breathe, but you need to have some sort of momentum, and you need to have some sense of story. From a short story. When you take a short story and you pace it wrong and you make it 6 hours long, there's no real excuse for that. So,
well, I liked it. So, until...
I won't... Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. So, just, it's subjective and you're wrong.
I'm Doug Walker and he was an ass.
And he's wrong.
But he's still an ass. And I'm right.